speaking to human rights activist Okiya Omtata, who has filed a case, and by that it has led to the extension of the mass voter registration to Sunday, the 19th, 6 p.m. And he has his reasons for filing this particular case and has been explaining this in the last hour. We continue with the conversation. As is now, of course, what you have been trying to attain is the registration of voters using other documents, but what we have right now is the national identity card, national identification, basically. And you have some figures that you show the disparity between the numbers of those who have attained adulthood and those who actually have IDs. Yeah, but
before I go there, I'm about to clarify one thing, that whereas the law just says passport, the IEBC has behaved like as though it's parliament and inserted the word valid, such that if I register with a passport today and my passport expires on the 7th of August, I cannot vote. You see? So the issue is, it a document holder? Is it the document holding that makes you vote, or you are being Kenyan? And does the expiry of my passport strip me of my citizenship?
Right.
Those are the questions you need to answer, because they have inserted a word there called valid, which is not in the act. But if you look at the requirement they put on, they're saying valid and you cannot do whatever. Well,
perhaps they in their defense, they would say, you know, even as you need to travel, you need to use a valid
no, but you're not traveling, you are voting. And the voting says an adult Kenyan.
Right.
So if there's a mechanism, even if it is a question of identifying me by my chief, writing a letter and saying Omtata is a Kenyan,
right,
so be it.
But the easier option has been at least the identity cards.
Yeah, it's an easier option, but the issue is, there's no attempt to ensure that the issuance of the identity cards is universal.
Yes, and give us the numbers, because you have some...
We've done some studies on the ground. We contracted some experts, that's Kenyans for Justice and Development, and you'll find that for the Nyanza region, eligible adults who do not have identification documents, who are adults, we have got 1,221,813 people. When you go to Western Kenya, Western region, you find 1,211,175 people who do not have identification papers and therefore cannot register as voters, but are adults. When you go to Coast region, you have got 1,005,863 people who are not registered because they do not have identity cards. You go to the Marsabit, Isiolo, Samburu, and West Pokot region, they have 350,077.
But Omtata, just to, as you continue with the figures, someone would actually look at the regions that you are quoting, Nyanza, Western Coast, and would say actually these are opposition strongholds.
No, so I'm just coming, we have covered all,
building up.
No, we have covered every area, because like if you go to the Lower Eastern,
right,
you have got 859,273. When you go to Rift Valley, you'll find that in the area of Trans Nzoia, Narok, Kajiado, Turkana, you have got a total of 1,035,507 people. You come to Upper Eastern, you've got about 654,000, like that. You come to Central, you get in Central region, you've got 893,044 people not having identification, so they cannot be registered. So the problem is universal.
Right.
And now, how do we then rely on the ID as the unit for identifying a Kenyan who can vote if the government is unable to issue IDs? Some of us are old enough, like when I was in secondary school, when they brought in the identification, when they took those IDs, I think that's 1979, you could go in a room, they come to school, you go somewhere, they take your picture, you move to the next room, they take your fingerprints, you go to the next place, they print for you the ID, you get the ID when it's still hot, you see, on the spot. So what is this thing that is happening that today we came to be degenerating backwards, that an identification paper is now virtually impossible to get?
Right. Do you hold on?
And you saw the other day the president say ID should be issued in 3 days.
3 days.
Which means the technology is there, the capacity is there. but it's mischief in government not to give Kenyans identification cards.
Well, someone would say the government it's in their interest to have more people registered.
It will be in their economic interest,
right?
But in this country, I think political interests override.
Okay.
Yeah. So I don't know the reason why they are not doing it, but the evidence is that there's a crisis on the ground of people not having registration.
And that's documents. Why you've tried to, go over these numbers, at least close that gap by suggesting other documents.
Yeah, other documents should be used.
But in the reality of things, as the case continues, of course, it will be mentioned March 2nd. Yeah. Do you see this, going through in terms of...
you see, when you file a public interest case, it's not about the people who are in court. It's not about the generation which is existing today. That's a case in perpetuity. Maybe at these elections, we may not be able to use them. But in the next elections, there might be a mechanism to create it. But the overall and overriding it is our demand that there should be one single database of Kenyans, so that even the IEBC, when it's doing its work, it refers to a standard database. And that database exists with the Directorate of Immigration and Registration of People.
Sorry to take you back on something that I probably just inquired earlier. This is the last phase of mass voter registration.
Yeah.
And you've been keen. I'm not sure if you registered at this time or, you haven't changed your polling station, whatever it will be. But this is not the first time that they've done this mass voter registration.
Yeah.
These numbers have been there, at least from what you've told me in terms of how old the numbers are.
Yeah.
Why didn't you bring it up then so you could have more time to argue your case?
No, it was 2 months. This data is about 2 months old. Then the other thing, as I was telling you...
This concern didn't come up during the last mass voter registration exercise.
It was the result of the last voter registration and the results that we were seeing that we commissioned the study to be done.
Right.
And it came out before... It came out slightly before this other phase began.
Okay.
And there had been a lot of political pressure, and we expected that with the politicians pleading, and they were pleading across the board, that allow our people a chance to get documentation.
Yes.
When a person as high as the president intervenes and gives, I don't know if it was an executive order because I've not seen it, but I saw the media report.
Yes.
That for heaven's sake, give Kenyans IDs in 3 days. Then there's a crisis to get the head of state of the Republic of Kenya to comment on an issue. He's not an idle person.
Yes.
So when the president comments on an issue, there's information that is relying on. And we are collaborating that information by trying to provide some figures.
Yes.
Even in Sonborn backyard of Central of province, I've given up 893, and
yes.
44 persons are not having IDs for registration. So it's not a question of saying opposition, saying government, no. It's a question of saying Kenyans have a right to vote. The most important instrument you have is the vote. Because even in the Constitution, when you say we the people, it's the voters. Because it is you who can change the Constitution, you can make the law the voters.
Yes.
The other people who don't have a vote are passengers.
Speaking to the vote about the voters and to the layman, what Justice Muitat said yesterday was that the continuous registration at constituency level continues till June. Till
June 7th.
Because there has been a lot of focus on mass voter registration. So to the layman, what does this mean? It continues?
This means that you can go to your constituency anytime between now and June 7th, and you'll be registered to vote for the 2017 elections. The mass voter registration, why it is popular, that there has been a lot of publicity about it. The continuous registration, there's no publicity.
Then why the big fuss then if we're continuing till June then?
No, the big fuss is this, that the mass voter registration is done at the ward level,
right,
which is almost near the grassroots. So somebody does not have to leave a day's income to go and register. You can walk.
Convenience.
Yeah, it is convenience.
Right.
And the voting, when it is convenient, you get more people responding. So in fact, the ideal should be the polling station within the community. Now, when you put at the constituency, and some constituencies in this country are vast with no transport network. So somebody may need to put aside a week to go and get registered. And this is what we are saying, that, especially in the marginalized areas, a constituency has a point where the IEBC, the IEBC office starts, is wrong.
Yes. Because
when at the constitution, and the things that called 6.3, it requires that any state organ must have its functions on the grassroots.
Right.
So for us, and given that the Electoral Act requires a polling station register, therefore the unit for generating the voters register is the polling station, and we should have a BVR point there where people can just walk in and register. But all said and done, the constituent is there, and we also insisted it remains there because the IEBC wanted to close both.
Yes.
On 14.
Yes.
But now with this room there, there's also a possibility of those people who can manage to do it, like the politicians who might want to rally people to register. They can go and with a mobile, the BVR kits can be moved around. You can take the BVR kit from the constituency and go down with it to a region and let people register with the officers register.
In finality, this particular concern issue that you have brought up, now that, of course, the ruling is out and the mention will be on the 2nd of March, anything else you will do to this end, or it's something that will hopefully have an impact in the next mass voter registration for the future?
We don't want mass voter registration.
For the future?
Not even in the future.
Yes.
We just want the BVR kit at the polling station.
So your fight
so
continues.
that there will be no issue of mass voter registration is an acceptance that what they have has failed. So it's a backup mechanism.
So your fight continues?
Our fight continues. We want the Kenya not to be inconvenienced for purposes of voting. Let the unit of vote, even if it will be periodic, they can say there's continuous voter registration every so many days, maybe not daily, but maybe bi-monthly, but we shall be bringing this unit at the polling station, so be it.
Right.
But let the Kenyan not be inconvenienced when going to register to vote.
Well, you've certainly won a lot of favor with the Kenyans who hadn't registered, at least in the mass voter registration window. That has been taken till 19th of this month. That is Sunday, 6 p.m. But it continues, as you've said, at the constituency level till the 7th of June, as you have clarified, not May, as it was quoted in some of the reports. Now, I won't let you go here because as a human rights activist, you still have some keen interest on one of the latest developments that we have today. And in fact, it's on the cover headline of the Daily Nation as well as other papers. The bold plan to spy on all calls text rolled out. And of course, even a few moments ago, the Communications Authority of Kenya, I'll hold it up again just for you to see if, in case you haven't grabbed your copy of the Daily Nation. Well, there's a press briefing called by the Communications Authority of Kenya that whose attention has been drawn by claims in the local media and online media that the authority is implementing the device management system to monitor and access private data of mobile phone users. And in their opinion, they say the authority wishes to clarify the misleading reports and hereby invites you to press conference to be held at the Intercontinental. That is actually about to happen in 9 minutes. We have our reporter Ken Mijungu, who has headed over there, and he'll be giving us a brief of what we get in terms of clarification to the reports that are out. But you've said if you weren't in studio, you would have actually been petitioning this. What are you working on?
We're working on a petition to go and quash that kind of development for many reasons. Among them, first of all, it has been done in secrecy. 2, and the law requires the public to participate in policy issues and what have you. 2, it's a major intrusion on the right to privacy. And if you know a human being, the most important thing a human being has is privacy. Even though the fact that we wear clothes, we do whatever, the main thing is privacy. So when you intrude in the privacy of a human being, you dehumanize the person. He'll no longer be a human being.
Yes.
Will be robots. So we are going to fight this tooth and nail to make sure that it is quashed.
This is Kenyans for Justice.
Kenyans for Justice and Development. And if this CA people want to do anything like that, then let it be put to the Kenyans. We have got a parliament. We have got whatever. Let them do it the proper way. And the most important thing, even parliament cannot do this because even under the state of emergency, we have got Article 58. If you look at Clause 7, it says the state of emergency does not overthrow the Constitution. Right. So even in a state of emergency, you cannot do this.
Yes, but it does call for some special conditions and environments and action to be taken. However, just to go back on this issue, people would normally quote national security when the government says it would need to perhaps listen in on conversations, follow transactions, because this is what partly is going to happen. Basically detect your every move in terms of your calls, your texts, and
you see, the Constitution is so good. First of all, our Constitution, in terms of upholding rights, it gives the burden both to the government and to the individual to uphold the rights. So you'll find that when you go to the access to information under Article 35, it's very clear that you can get access to information held by a private person if it is required for the purposes of protecting protecting the Bill of Rights. Security is one thing that underpins the Bill of Rights, because without security, there's no Bill of Rights. So the mechanism is there. If they're suspecting I'm involved in some funny stuff, it's not a question of going to keep on sniffing. If you have a reason to suspect that you need to look somewhere, convince a judge, get a warrant, go ahead and do it.
Right.
We have nothing against it. But to keep on snooping on every conversation people are doing, and you are empowering third parties to do certain things. A lot of the transactions that go on in these things are business deals.
Right.
When people are negotiating or preparing to do a business, somebody snoops in and runs ahead of them and steals it. So you're going to get a creation whereby you're going to create powerful interlopers who will be able to hijack information, who will be able to intimidate people, maybe with private information. Some of the things that people exchange, like on social media, is very personal and private. It has got no security component.
Right.
Maybe a wife is sending to her husband her picture and she's naked. Now, if somebody picks that picture and calls this woman, if you don't give me so much, I'm going to release your nude pictures.
Right.
To the public, look at that. There's no such national security, but you're allowing somebody access to these kind of things.
Right.
So there are structures, and especially what they want to do, that look at the counterfeit gadgets. The genuine gadgets have got serial numbers and there are mechanisms for doing it. And even right now, if you steal my phone, I'll go to the CID. They're able to switch off that phone, and we can follow it up. Right. So we don't need anything extra that violates right. I think we should look for, there's no choice between national security and our values as embodied in the Constitution.
Well, Tata, you've been around for a while and you understand how the government operates. Someone would say it's quite naive of us to actually think that this hasn't been happening already, in terms of, the government listening in to persons of interest.
Yes, I think it has been happening. They have been doing it. I think I have no evidence that they have done it, because nothing has been produced in court to suggest that this evidence was picked through. Like I was watching today, this American man who resigned, the intelligence group seemed to have recorded this conversation with the Russian ambassador. Nothing of that sort has ever happened here in terms of those kind of violations.
Yes.
But right now, the good thing is that somebody has blown the whistle on a specific aspect of that problem. And once it has been exposed, then it has to be dealt with. And that's why we always say that the two legs upon which a free man walks is an independent judiciary and an independent media. If you had not brought this out, maybe you received that, you killed it, the editors killed it, then some of us who might want to move the judiciary to intervene would never be able to move. So, and this thing for me underscores the importance of having these two institutions, which are not elected, but which are the really foundations upon which democracy is. The editor who is not elected, and the judge who is not elected. These are the people who protect our freedom. And so once things are exposed like this, even the last petition we went through, because the media put it out that they're going to terminate this, so we can pick it up and run away with it to the courts and say, this one is against the law, kindly give us an adjudication. Can it work, or is it violative of our rights? Then the judge will give you a determination. Well,
right now, in the next 3 minutes at least, if the Communications Authority keeps time, they should be holding a brief on this matter to dispute misleading reports, in their words. Do you think this is just crisis management, or indeed that the report, you've read it, of course, is onto something?
I think I even have copies of the letters. After this came out, we went out of our way to try and source these letters, and we now have copies of the letters with which we are going to move the courts. And the important thing is for those letters to be quashed, and these people to be shown how they were breaching the law. The tender has already been given out to this company that is supposed to be conducting the surveillance. And so I think that whatever they say at the press conference, which will be a denial, does not change the fact that they wrote those letters.
Right.
And they must come and explain to the court why they chose to violate the rights to privacy of the Kenyan people.
Yes.
And we have the courts officially quash those letters and give them clear orders of what they cannot do and what they can do.
You mentioned an earlier petition that you had put forward that you will actually bring to this particular issue. And now, just refresh our memory on that.
I just said we've prepared a petition, which we are going to file today in court to seek to quash those letters that the IEBC wrote to the telephony providers. And we will be filing it this afternoon, and we hope it will be heard on Monday.
Right.
Yeah.
And this is a Kenyans for
Justice and Development.
Well, the Kenya Human Rights Commission has also spoken on the same matter, and you maintain that this particular issue has no grounds in the name of national security.
No. National security, if you look at the chapter on national security, it is very clear. I think it's Article 238 of the Constitution. It's very clear that national security shall be upheld in accordance with the values and principles of the Constitution.
Right.
We are not in a situation whereby you can torture somebody because of national security. You may be able to kill him in war, but if you arrest him, you cannot torture him. That's what we have chosen as a people.
Yes.
Those are our values. So we must be able to maintain our national security within that network. And if it's a question of, I think when you talk of security, what this country requires is penetration, not surveillance.
Yes.
In our communities, what kind of intelligence are we getting? Because when you look at the NSIS, there's a time when our NSIS used to do very good work because it was usually recruited from the community. Today, they're recruiting people from colleges. So you'll find that there's virtually no penetration in the architecture of our national security. These are people who are basically doing jobs. If you wanted to penetrate maybe a group of suspects in an area, maybe I would go and get the intelligence people to work for me.
Yes.
Would be people who are the local butcher, maybe the seller of a guy who sells miraa.
Yes.
Choose with these people, a guy who sells busa, drinks with these people. Those are the people who might be able to get me the intelligence I need without necessarily violating the rights of people through this kind of equipment, whereby you put there a blanket thing which has no limit to what it can check. Because when we are using person-to-person intelligence, there are limits to where a person can go with another one.
Okay.
You see.
We'll follow this particular story and the developments to this end. And you say, of course, this afternoon you're filing a petition. So we'll be following through on that, and other organizations that are responding to this latest information that is coming out. We'll hear what the Communications Authority will have to say. Thank you very much, Okia Omtata. Let's cross over now to...
I would say that, as they say from past, that the cost of freedom is eternal surveillance.
Let me give you a chance actually to continue with that parting shot, let me call it that. Just after this, we have to cross over to the meeting between the IEBC officials and the Jubilee officials that are there.
Chebukati and the CEO, Mr. Chiloba, all of them are here. We want to thank them most sincerely for extending us the courtesy of paying us a visit at the Jubilee headquarters. The meeting was arranged for us to meet them at the IEBC headquarters at Anniversary Towers, but upon our request, we requested that they do come and pay us a courtesy call so that we could conduct the meeting here this morning. And in their very humble way, they had the humility to come here instead, and we have discussed various matters of interest. Of course, the main matter of interest is the forthcoming elections, 8th of August, and we discussed matters rotating around that. We congratulated them most sincerely for all the work they've done in the mass voter registrations. We were able to address some of the areas in which we felt very strongly before, and we've been able to open a new chapter. But most important in our meeting was how the IEBC, according to the law, can help us in our nomination process, which we would like to be free and fair. We have agreed at the end of the meeting that we'll have a team of 3 from Jubilee to meet with a team of 3 from the IEBC so that this matter can be discussed further, and we look for common ground on the outstanding issues. I think I want to thank them once again, and I also want to say that we were very delighted that they have been announcing the results of the mass voter registration, because as far as we're concerned, it helps to democratize the process of election, because the election is a process which starts with voter registration and ends with the actual voter process itself, the ballot, the voting process itself. So what happens is that for the first time in the history of this country, we know how many people are registered per constituency, per county, and therefore it removes some of the mystery that surrounds the electoral process. I think Kenyans are today aware that there's a difference between an ecstatic, full and exciting drama of a rally, as opposed to the actual number of people who are registered to vote. The biggest rally does not translate into the biggest number of votes. It is those who actually go to register that determine the number of voters. We think that is a very, very important step that they have taken as a commission to democratize that information, and that information is now available to all Kenyans. We also address the issue from our standpoint. The commission has not given us any response, but from our standpoint, the issue of cleaning of the register to remove those voters that may have died since the last elections. And we did bring to the attention the fact that there should be some baselines. And one of the most important baselines that Kenyans ought to know, we think, is the crude death rate, which is different from county to county. The content of that particular statement is that if you come from a county where the death rate is higher per year, according to the crude death rate reports of the UNDP or UNFPA, you should expect to lose more people when the register is being cleaned of those who have passed on. So those kind of baselines, which are very scientific, should be some of the factors that Kenyans should know about, so that if all of a sudden from this county or that county the numbers plummet because more of them have died, then they should accept that that is the reason why that is happening. So the truth of the matter is that, of course, some of us politicians normally take advantage of funerals and we turn them into funeral rallies, and some of us can chop by hopper, by helicopter from one funeral to another to address people. There's a downside of it, and the downside is that it means you're losing many voters. And if that is happening in your county, don't be surprised when your numbers go down when the register is cleaned. We think it's important for you as media to start this process of educating Kenyans, so that once again nobody's going to say that so many people have been dropped from the register from their regions, so rigging has taken place. It is those kind of things that we wanted to bring to the attention of the the commissioners, and they've been so kind as to receive our memorandum, which we will share with you in the spirit of openness in terms of what we discussed. Thank you very much for coming. We'll be taking questions. That's all I have to say. And I'll ask the chairman if he has anything to add or to say, so to speak.
Yeah, thank you very much. Yes, this is the new commissioners right behind me. We had a meeting last week with the NASA team, and today we have had a meeting with the Jubilee team. As you all know, Jubilee is the ruling party. NASA is the opposition, CORD and NASA, they are the opposition party. And we have reached out to them in the spirit of engaging stakeholders. The new commission is committed to delivering free, fair, credible and peaceful elections come on the 8th of August this year. And in that spirit, that's why we are engaging the stakeholders, the political parties. We came in office, we said that our door is open, and we welcome everybody who has ideas, views on the processes which we have undertaken. And this is part of that outreach activity of the new commission. And therefore, we have received a memorandum from Jubilee. We have also discussed a wide range of issues. I just want to confirm what Mr. Tucha has said. The issue of the register is one of the issues we discussed. As you all know, we have the court has extended the registration up to Sunday of that's 19th. On 19th, we expect that now the regions will bring us data of the people who have registered and the transfers, and thereafter we shall commence the process of cleaning up the register. And this has to go on until on the 9th of May, we shall present that register to the Kenyan people, the politicians, for verification purposes. And so this has to be done. The cleaning of the register involves, of course, removing the dead voters, removing those names of people who may have double registration. I know of a fact that some people have been induced to transfer more than once. Those are the cases we shall ensure don't come in the register. And so the issue of the register is important. But we also discussed many other issues, and I want to say one of the issues which has come up is party nominations. As a commission, we are working on the party nomination guidelines and regulations. But as you all know, party nominations are coming up in March, and therefore we will engage Jubilee. They requested us to hold party nominations. We have a small team which will engage the party for purposes of working out the best way of how to handle it. And on that note, I think I want to say this kind of engagement is open. We welcome everybody to our offices. Perhaps the question may arise, why we came to Jubilee as opposed to them coming to our office. And we are saying, as a ruling party, we decided that as a commission we come here and meet them in the offices, the same way we went to see the opposition in the offices in NASA offices. And for all the other parties who want to engage us and we share ideas, we welcome them to come to Anniversary Towers. So this is the last of our outreach visit to political parties. Thank you very much, and have a nice afternoon.
Thank you. Yes, let's start one there and then you. Thank you.
Thank you so very much. My name is Anok Sikwala from NTV. Now, I have two quick ones. The first one is on, I remember the last time when the Jubilee Party had a press conference, one of the key issues you outlined was you wanted IEBC to come out clear on the issue of impartiality. Looking at the two heads of the commission coming from one region. So I don't know if you've addressed that. Then number two, is the issue of nomination. When it comes to primaries, one of the issues that has been coming out clear is about funding. As a commission, you have the funds. If all parties will come, that we, because I'm given to understand that if Jubilee, you agree with Jubilee, and probably the opposition might also want you to carry out their nominations. Do you have the funding?
Okay, first of all, the issue of impartiality. We did discuss the issue of impartiality, but we also did say that, and it is in our memorandum to them, that the opposition has, on more than once, on several occasions, perpetuated the narrative that the elections are going to be rigged or could be rigged. The only institution that can rig the elections is the IEBC. So to say that the government is going to rig the elections or Jubilee is planning to rig the elections, this cannot happen unless the IEBC decides to go into cahoots with Jubilee to do that. And we wanted the IEBC to be very categorical and to be able to say if that is true or not true. The NASA or opposition, is it now NASA? I mean, NASA. They finally decided on the name. Is that breaking news? Now, you see, NASA or CORD or whoever they are have tried to perpetuate this narrative, which may create the impression that we are in some unholy alliance with the IEBC. And that is of concern for us. And that's why I did make the previous statement that if an analysis was to be made, then we don't see how we can possibly be in cahoots with the IEBC. IEBC has written to us in very tough language. We did talk to them through the media in very tough language, but we believe we have reached the end of that particular discussion. The fact that they have been so courteous as to come and visit with us and meet for the last 2 hours, we think is a very clear indication of goodwill from their side and their impatient sense to ensure that they are impartial. And indeed, if they did go to the NASA offices and today they are in our offices, then I don't think that it would be appropriate for us to talk about any bias. So I think we're very satisfied with that. The next thing which you're saying is about the funding. I think one of the things which came up in our discussion is that there's some ambiguity in the law with respect to this particular issue of IEBC helping in the nomination process, because while the law says that the IEBC should help in the nomination process when asked by a party, that law does not provide on how this should be funded, and the IEBC has not been allocated such funds. Then, of course, there's also the other aspect of the law, which requires that if there's disagreement in the nomination process, then the IEBC is supposed to be the next step to arbitrate in that process. So how can they be arbitrators and at the same time be the ones who help us conduct it? So there's some conflict there. And those are the issues that our team of 3 and their team of 3 will look at, because we have to accept that this kind of processes in our country, we are at embryonic stages of implementation, and there's likely therefore to be some difficulties. We are being open-minded about it, and we are going to meet with them with open minds and to see how to, resolve the matter. I'm sure that he may want to say something more than that.
I think the issue of funding. You see, the issue of IEBC's participation in party nominations is a legal requirement. If a political party writes and requests, IEBC shall be involved in the nominations. That's what the law says. But on the ground, of course, the regulations have not been developed. We are actually working on them. And as you know, that IEBC doesn't have funds of its own. So if there's any funding required, we shall have to approach Treasury through Parliament, of course, for that allocation. So it's quite a process, but we shall engage. Of course, our first wish is that I wish political parties would hold primaries without involving us. But the law is there, and those are some of the things we shall be engaging.
So you don't have enough capacity?
IEBC has capacity. They ran elections in the past. We are preparing for a national election. And in that aspect of capacity, we have the capacity to run the national election. If you can run a national election, a party election will not be a problem. We are only talking of a small portion of the people participating, because we go by the party membership list. So capacity we have. But we are talking about logistics. And we're also talking about our timelines towards the August 8th general election. We have a lot of things on our table. We have to do the register, which you have mentioned. We have to do verification. We have to do a lot of things related to voter education and others. So it's more of the workload which we have as opposed to capacity.
Thank you. Yes.
Yep.
Mwananchi Bukati, pengine kutokana na kesi ambazo zinawasilishwa mahakamani kupinga zabuni, kwa mfano ile ya IEBC, pengine swala hili huenda ikaathiri kwa njia moja au nyingine maandalizi ya uchaguzi ujao.
Kulingana na kesi ya umesema ya KPMG ama kesi nyingine, hiyo kesi haitazuia sisi kufanya uchaguzi wa August 8th, kwa sababu koti vile iliamua. KPMG haijaamliwa bado, nafikiri inaendelea ile ya audit. Sisi tunaendelea na shughuli zetu kama dume, tunaendelea na mambo ya kuangalia register vile iko, tutoe ile majina ambayo haifai, haitakani kwa register, na sisi tunaendelea na shughuli yetu. Vile umeona tumetoa timelines tayari, vile tunaendelea na hiyo ratiba mpaka tufika tarehe 8 siku ya kura. So mambo ya ile kama ya audit ikimalizika, tutaendelea nayo. Kama kuna mambo mengine ya kesi zingine kama ile ya procurement, hiyo sasa tutaanza tena fresh, na bado tuna time, tuna wakati wa kutengeneza hiyo procurement, tupate ballot papers in good time. So mambo ya kotini haitazuia sisi kufanya uchaguzi mwaka huu.
Thank you. Okay. Yes, over there. Let's start with it. I saw him first, sorry.
Yes, okay.
No bias.
My name is Arcadius. I have a question to Mr. Chepukati on clearing of register. And as you have talked about the debt, which criteria are you using to eliminate people who die late to election?
Those are acts of God.
Yeah. Do you have a suggestion on how we can do that?
Those are acts of God.
Thank you very much for that question. Yes, we don't wish anybody to die, but it's natural that we shall all die one day. The issue of the register, we are procuring a system, technology system, which has 3 major components. One, of course, is what we are using now, for biometric voter registration. And if you have registered, I hope you all have registered to vote. You put your fingerprints, so those fingerprints will identify you, only one person, not 2. And of course, your national identity card is also a feature. Now, when you go to vote, the other component of the technology is the identification device, the EVID. Now, that EVID will be able to identify you. If you walk to the polling station and put your fingers there. Now, if you are dead, of course, you are not going to go there. So even if you die a day before, you will not be able to walk to the polling station. So the best way out for us is to ensure that the EVID system works and that we are able to identify you using the EVID system.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yes, No, I'll start with him.
I was just curious, Honorable, to you that now that IEBC is really, its hands appear to be full, there are many litigation cases going in court, they're preparing for other sports, the time span is too short. Have you as a party considered maybe having sourcing for an alternative body to do party primaries for your party and give IEBC room to concentrate on the other sports?
Since we are meeting, we have selected a group of 3 from our side, and the IEBC will also be telling us who will be meeting on the other side. I think I'd like to cross the bridge after that particular meeting.
Wakati tumeona kwamba shughuli ya usaili wa kura imeongezwa kwa siku 5, mara kwanza kwa siku 2 alafu siku 3 jana. Pengine harakati hii huenda ikaathiri maandalizi yenu in terms of budget.
Hiyo ni kweli. Budget yetu imeharibika kwa sababu kwa kila siku kulingana na ile mass voter registration tunatumia karibu 30 to 40 million shillings per day kufanya hiyo operation, sababu tuna watu wengi tumeweka kwa hiyo kazi. Kuna mpangilio ya security, unajua some areas huwezi fanya registration bila security, na budget yes imeharibika. Koti imeingilia ile maneno na kuongeza hizo siku, lakini lazima vile tumesema tunafuata sheria, rule of law, lazima tufuate hiyo sheria. Vile koti imeamua tutafanya hiyo mambo ya registration mpaka tarehe 19 Sunday, alafu ndio tufunge ile mkondo.
Thank you very much. I think we should okay. I've seen the hands of a lady there, so I don't want to be accused of gender bias.
Yes, my name is Nancy from Manila, and my question is about the team, the three from Jubilee and the others from IEBC. When are you going to meet to begin the discussion on that? When are you expecting the voting to be done?
You want to say something about that?
I think our first meeting will be on 28th of February. That's the first day when we shall be engaging with the IEBC to either agree to roll out rules of engagement and the extent to which IEBC can be involved in the nominations. So on that day we shall be able to lay out a very short program within which we shall finish the discussions, because we are constrained by time and the timelines that have been issued by IEBC. So on 28th we shall be able to give you a feedback after engaging with the IEBC appointed team. I will be sitting in the team together with Honorable Tuju, and we are going to be advised on which other people are going to be appointed from the IEBC end to sit in that team.
Thank you. Okay, very last one. Yes, she's answered it. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. No, you've already given you a chance.
An issue just want to know from the chairman, with the cancellation of the tender for the ballot papers, and it has affected your timeline. I understand the commission said that last time. So what is the way forward? What are we looking at? Do you have another plan? How do you plan to recover the time? Because you have to start afresh.
The issue of the tender, I think I addressed it in Swahili. Maybe you didn't hear it properly. We have time. We have time to do another tender and procure ballot papers. The election is on August 8th. Ballot papers are some of the very last items we shall be getting for purpose of the election. So we have time, and if for any reason that time is compromised, the procurement law is there. We shall follow the procurement law and still make sure we have procure ballot papers for the election. We have very many options in the procurement law. There are almost 5. So they are at our disposal. So the timelines will not change. We shall follow the timelines as we publish them.
Kwani wewe ni babi uelewe Kiswahili bana? Okay, I understand. Just a light touch. I think we'll come to an end of this particular press conference. Thank you very much for coming. I think I'll take this opportunity to symbolically again hand over the memorandum from Jubilee.
The Jubilee Secretariat there at their headquarters, just handing over their memorandum to the chair of the IEBC, of course, with his team there, and the issues that they have been looking into and discussing, of course, nomination, registration of voters, the national register, preparedness for the August 8th election. Some of the questions there that have been answered by the chair and also the head of the Jubilee Secretariat, at least questions that are directed at them. And we still have Okia Omtata in studio. Your issue on the case has been mentioned there. At least Chebukati wants to show that they're still on schedule, and this does not sidetrack or put them off track in terms of the timelines. Just a response to what you've been hearing from this particular press conference.
I think they are still determined to breach the law. The law says issues to do with the cleaning the register, whatever, the inspection will be done within a period of 60 days. It used to be 90 days. When the amendments came in, Parliament amended that to 60 days. They participated in that process. They are bound by the law. So to tell us that after 19th, they are closing registrations, they will be in contempt of court. The court requires these people to run until 60 days to the election, which is the 7th of June.
As you were listening to this, you said it sounded like they're preparing us for something in terms of cleaning the register.
Yeah, the way Tuju was talking is like there was a subtext. What we were saying, that opposition areas are going to be depopulated in terms of the register, because he said that people die more in opposition areas than in other areas. That was his subtext, but I thought that was very unfortunate for him to say, and he had no business commenting on what kind of register will come out. What does he know that we don't know? Is it the IEBC?
Right.
Even the IEBC has not done the work. Has Tuju done the work? So he has a register he's going to give to the IEBC. And that register will have dramatic reductions in people who are registered. But the more important is that particular register, technically, if you look at the judgment of the Supreme Court, if you look at paragraph 67 and 72 of the Supreme Court judgment in the presidential petition, that register should not be used.
All right.
Because they admitted they had captured the matter erroneously. They were capturing data, not using the technology, but manually, and then entering it. And that's why you find these double registrations and what have you, because if you do it digitally,
yes,
you can't have that.
Well, they say from 19th, they'll receive the data and start the cleaning up process till the 9th of May, presented to the public. I'm sure you'll be keenly...
We'll follow that keenly, and if they do that, we are going to cite them for contempt of court.
Well, thank you very much, Okia Omtata. You have been very gracious with your time, as well as your reactions to the very latest case that you had brought before court.